So feet parallel, hips just dropping back a little bit, turning gently. A couple of slow, deep breaths. Looking for that feeling of your hips, buttocks just overhanging slightly. So, you know, the whole posture is here, if you like, think of it like that. Everything about Tai Chi that's essential is in this one exercise, as I've mentioned before. The added advantage, it's just a little bit more dynamic. So this is the exercise that I always have been talking about, building up a practice. To start off with, this doesn't require much kind of thought. You kind of stand there and you start to move your arms. And I generally start off in the morning miles away. It's just that this is how I start my day. And after a while, I think, oh, I'm meant to be doing Tai Chi. So I think about my posture and so on and so forth. And it is difficult to set up a practice. We seem to have an inbuilt resistance to it. As I just said today, but worth repeating, the thing to do is to not force it into your life, but just to do literally a few minutes. I would always recommend not setting out to do more than 5 minutes to begin with. Do this exercise for a couple of minutes and then maybe pick a couple of exercises that are your favorites. Do those either by, as I'll do later, you count them, or you could time them if you wanted to. You have a clock in front of you and say, well, I've done that one for a minute or 2 minutes. I'm now going to go on to do this. And you'll very soon find that actually that resistance to practicing kind of melts away once you've started to do that. Or you could decide just to do one exercise for 5 minutes if you wanted to, whatever suits you best, really. Raising your arms. And then just letting your hands drop. So weight a little bit forwards, hips dropping back. So what I'll do is I'll go through the first set of exercises. I'll do 4 of each, or try to do 4 of each. Apart from the first one, I think we'll give ourselves a little bit longer with the first one, just because it's nice and straightforward, and it kind of gets us into the swing of it. But once we've done that, then I'll go through a little bit more methodically. So first of all, just letting your hips sink back and pushing up, softening in your knees, your hips and your ankles. Expanding and contracting. Bring your hands around in front of you, pushing up, feeling the movement up through your back, and then settle. Nice and easy, a nice sort of soothing quality to the movement. take your time at the different stages. Don't rush into the movement. Just punctuate the overall movement with these little moments of slowing down, settling, particularly as you sink down. It's not that nothing is happening, it's just that here you focus your attention on the rotation of your arms rather than pushing up or sinking down. Now this time change to the wild goose. And again, don't rush. It's just this little sort of beginning and ending moment. And then parting the clouds. And then we'll do a little sequence with the three of these movements. So take your time. Again, that little sort of settled moment between each movement gives you just that bit of space. If you forgot the movement that comes next, then notice that there's often a little kind of grip of panic. And just remind yourself, it's not the end of the world if you get something out of sequence. So it was just and quite often that little punctuation reveals what comes next. So one more round of this to make up the 4. Now change into Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. You could link up any of the movements to make a sequence of the sort that we've just done. Some movements lend themselves better to than others to that, I think, inevitably. Pushing in 4 directions now. One more round. And then circling palms. And then if it's comfortable, return. changing sides. And then add in the turn. Good. Now rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Polishing the table. Good, and stand. Shake it. So that makes a set of movements. It's a little bit more akin to a Tai Chi form. Tai Chi form will have a set number of movements that you do, and then you change and you go to another movement, and then sometimes you do one or two, sometimes you do more. So a Tai Chi form is a very defined thing, and I think there's an advantage to that. This morning when I got up, I thought, I was just in a state of mind where it was easier in a sense to do a Tai Chi form than it was to do one exercise for a while and then change to another exercise and so on and so forth. Sometimes I might want to spend more time with a particular exercise though. If you start off doing, say, rooting down or something like that, and you get to 4 and you think, I don't want to stop yet, well then don't. You're doing it in your own time and you're doing it for your benefit. On the other hand, if you know that you've got, well, okay, I've got a busy day and I've got maybe 10 minutes before everything and so on and so forth, you think, oh, okay, so, kind of like I'll just do 3 of each, or well, it should be an even number because some of them go from one side to the other, and just pick a few exercises, or maybe start off with a little sort of set of movements, do that, and then time yourself doing it or something like that, whatever actually works for you. The important thing is not to feel that you're doing it out of a sense of duty. There's always an element of that, I think. Sometimes I don't want to put on better practice because it's good for me. But in the first instance, what you want to be feeling is that there's a benefit to this. You come away from the practice feeling that you've achieved something. I remember when I first started doing Tai Chi, there was a book by a Chinese guy. One of the things he said was, "Stop when you feel good," and that seemed like kind of useful advice to start off with. It's definitely, as you persevere in Tai Chi, if you decide to take it up and you want to develop this, then yes, there are times when you think, no, I need to do that for a bit longer, and so on and so forth. But not all the time, and certainly not in the starting stages. Once you've started doing something, I mean, when I started, I found that 5 minutes became 10 minutes. It was like, oh, where's all the time gone? And I didn't really feel like finishing, and sometimes I had to because I was busy. Sometimes I didn't have to. Sometimes I could carry on. So build it into your life. Ideally, we do it in the morning because that way we sort of prepare ourselves for the day, and we're also able, I think, to get more of a benefit from the basic principles, and to feel that benefit going through the day. But if you haven't got time in the morning, I sometimes say to people, you've got to get the kids off to school and get yourself off to work. You haven't always got it doesn't feel like you've got 5 minutes. If you can get up 5 minutes earlier, that's great, but even that doesn't always work. So do it midday, or do it in the evening, or something like that. Just get it, just build it into your life in that way. Okay, so still in the parallel stance, and just moving your weight a little from side to side. We're going to go into the exercise bear play. So first of all, just side to side, just 60% of your weight dropping in and beginning to turn. So you turn the opposite way to the way that your weight is moved. So if you go into your left, you turn to the right. You go into your right, you turn to the left. And you come up in the middle of it. This is quite nice. You sort of come up, but this curving movement. You can feel this working in your spine. And if you put your hands on your hips, you'll feel that there's a bit of movement in your arms. A slightly sort of circular pattern in your hips and hands. And just letting your shoulders mirror that movement. Notice how when you do that, see where your elbows go. And then just release your hands into the bear play. Very fluid feeling in your spine. The movement in your shoulders, a reflection of the movement in your hips, as is so often the case. Quite carefully placed when you move your hands. Don't overextend them. So I want to be here, not here. See how my shoulders come out of line. So here, my elbow is a little bit forwards of my shoulder. It's not right back there, but neither has it gone out there at all. Changing this time, turn out a little bit and pushing into hitting the ball in front of the shoulder. Now, see how the hip comes round with a bit of a push from the leg. Turn the hand palm down, turn your left hand palm up, come over into your right foot. Your left heel coming off the ground and expanding up through the side of your body. The feeling of expansion and contraction alternating from side to side isn't so different to the feeling that we would get in Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. One more of these, and then with the same movement in your legs and your hips, both hands now coming together, cow gazes at the moon. Let's have your arms swing down here, and then up. You may find if you can settle in that supporting leg a bit, and you can turn a little bit further. One more time. And then shake out. Slightly wider stance. Let's do part the wild horse's mane. So move your weight into your right leg, about 60%. Hold the ball, right hand on top, your left hand underneath. Nice and soft in your hips. Push into your left. Press down with your right hand. So you're stretching out the elastic band. The elastic band contract as you come back. Hold the ball. And then carry the ball over into your left side and turn. So one, we release the turn, the arms swing out. Nice open feeling across your chest. Two, you come back, feeling the chest just gently contract and you hold the ball. Three, move your weight across into your right. And four, turn to the right. One. And again, we have the slightly exaggerated punctuation points at this stage. Two, just resting in each stage. Three, and 4. One more time in that fashion. 1, 2, three, and 4. And then as we begin to let the movement flow a little bit more, we find that the edges of those stages overlap. I'm already coming into the ball holding position. I'm moving across, but I'm beginning to turn. I can feel the leg being loaded. I can feel the potential for the next movement. This is why I've taken to call them punctuation points rather than pauses, because the movement doesn't actually stop, but there's just that little bit of space in it. One more on each side. Check out. One foot forwards. Just transferring your weight. And then raising your toes and your heel. Stepping in. And on the other side. So there are many things that we're trying to sort of bring together, the postural stuff, technical side of it, but also that lovely sense of the flow of the movement, the quietness, the calmness in our attention, the rooting down, because that comes under posture really, doesn't it? And that sense of not just having those, but being able to maintain them while you're moving. And so that calmness in the mind, really focusing on those points of punctuation. And I would always suggest, with this, like every time your weight moves, but it could be other things as well. Just raising your toes and your heel. Stepping in. And then step through. And back the other way. And have your right foot forwards. Starting your left, let's do bird folds its wings. So sit your weight back, turn your hands palm out, go forwards and just rotating your arms. So your fingertips travel in a very smooth curve. And then this time, change into fisherman castanet. And then pushing wave. One more time. At the end of this movement, just let your hands swing down. Do one round of bird folds its wings. and then fisherman cast the net. And then push and wave. This time, bring your feet back. Shake out. Let's do those 3 movements and then join them up again. So, starting with bird folds its wings with the other foot forwards now. Then fisherman cast the net. Do one more, and then push and wave. So then, just start by dropping your hands down. Bird folds its wings. And then here, you sink back and your arms follow into fisherman cast the net. And then push and wave. So do this from the side, you'll see from here, and drop down. And here comes bird folds its wings. Here, imagine doing this in water, so your arms feel as though they're held back and then they swing through. And push and wave. one more round after this one. And we'll check out. Good. Have your right foot forwards again. Let's go back to fisherman cast the net for a couple of rounds. And then we're going to wind blows the willows. But it's good to start like this because it's good to recognize what you're going to be doing and what you're not doing as you make the change. Your arms are already moving, so you don't have to do anything extra in that sense, nor do you really need to get that sense of lift in your arms. What you can do is just remind yourself of sort of, okay, so when my hand's here, I have one feeling in my side. But when it gets to there, it feels slightly different. So you just remind yourself of the various elements that are going to enable your arms to move. So the main feature, if you like to think of it like that, that we put into this is to turn. So as we go back, we sink into the back leg and we turn, and effectively we're doing the same thing on each side. So you notice that my arms aren't moving very much yet. But in doing this, turning in my center separates my arms. In fact, it separates my hips. Here, it's as though this hip on your left is going forward, this bit's going back, and the arms following that pattern. And that means that when we go to here, we get a feeling very similar to the feeling that we would get in the wild goose of expansion through belly into solar plexus. Because the arms are just separating in that sense. And gradually building on that so that your arms, over a period of time, begin to come a little bit higher. Okay, now let's try that with the other foot forwards. So, first of all, a few rounds of fisherman cast the net. Observing closely what is going on. And then this time, as you go back, turning into wind blow feet. Then, when you go back, turn your front foot out, go forwards, raising the back heel, bring your foot through, raise if it's comfortable, and then step down. You could just leave the foot down on the floor here, that's better for you. Dragonfly skims the water. And then going in the other direction. That's in your hip sink. In the alignment of your body. And then shake out. So again, with something like the stepping, and with any of the stepping exercises that we do, if you wanted to practice that, you could say, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to step down the garden path, or down my hallway, or across the room, or something like that, and I'm going to do it twice or something. I don't know. I remember once with Carell, one of my teachers, doing one particular exercise where we're in this lovely place down by the River Thames up at Henley, and big stately home, gardens designed by Capability Brown. So I've actually done Tai Chi in a couple of stately homes, and we were going for lunch, but Carell decided that we should do some Tai Chi on the way to lunch. So we're all carefully going down, just walking very, very slowly towards towards lunch. You can set yourself those kind of targets. They don't have to be harsh targets. They don't have to be massively difficult. They can just help to kind of focus your attention a bit. And in the end, they're your targets. So if you sort of like walk down your hall doing, I don't know, one of the exercises twice, and you think, that was quite nice, then do it some more. No one's saying you can't do more than that. And that was certainly my experience. And gradually I found that I wanted to do more, which is what encouraged me to continue at that point. Okay, so rubbing your hands together. You could be doing something like this. This is a good exercise. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. The other side. And onto your back. Around your hips. The legs. Light on your belly. The upper part of your chest. Okay, and shake out. What's the good thing about these exercises is, as opposed to a form, if you're learning a form in Tai Chi, there always comes a point where you sort of feel as though, well, I better go out and practice, because otherwise I won't remember. And if I don't remember, I'll be stuck next week, sort of thing. And of course, the practicing does help the recall of those things. So, I mean, we have to find a balance here, I think, between different ways of operating, and different things that suit us at different times. You don't have to practice everything. You don't have to practice anything. You can come to the classes not remembering anything, or you don't have to have a sense of progression if that doesn't suit you. Some people just like to come to their class each week, and whatever they get from that they take away with them, and then they don't do anything in between. Sometimes though people ask me questions about, well, what about such and such, and it's like, well, if you want to understand that, then yes, you have to practice, if you see what I mean. But it's down to all of us to decide. So, feet hip width apart, sinking down, embrace tiger, return to mountain. Although I do this one at the end of the class, you can do that at any time. So if it's an exercise that you associate with that kind of calming quality, you can think of this whenever you feel you need that. No particular order to any of the exercises we do in these classes, really. Although they do tend to get progressively a bit more demanding, that doesn't mean you have to do them in a particular order. So one more time. And stand. Shake out. Lovely. Thank you very much. So, hope it's not too grim where I was. This quite sunshine, but it is very cold around here. So
no, grim isn't the word I would use for that. Oh.
Thank you very much, both of you. So take care, enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you on Thursday, if not before. Thanks very much.
Right, cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.